Hi, it's Ola from meiker.io. I'm going to show you how to salvage old vector artwork from a more complex dress-up game. Here I have a very complex dress-up game, and it's the type where each item was on a different frame, which was pretty standard for a lot of the games at the time. So what I need to do is pull out all the items. So for example, here I have a movie clip with 4 different shirts, and it's all in pieces. So I'm going to press F8 to convert to symbol. Name doesn't matter, registration point does not matter. Select the next frame over, F8, enter, F8, enter, F8, enter. And now I want all of them, so I'm going to go 1, 2, 3 new layers, and I'm just going to select and then drag and pull. Select the keyframe, drag and pull. And what this does is now I have all 4 shirts on the same frame. So I can select them all, edit, copy, and then make a new file, new, just any action script file. I already have one created here from a previous tutorial attempt that didn't record for some reason. And I paste my stuff. And the reason we're doing this is we're going to generate a sprite sheet, but this original file has so much extra gunk in it that we don't want to get bothered. That's why we're only pasting the things we want to keep into a new file. So they're all here. Each one is encapsulated in its own movie clip, so they're not drawing over each other. And then you see here this file has a size of 800 by 600 pixels. And that was pretty standard for the time, for Flash's heyday. But these are vector graphics, and we can actually expand them indefinitely, and we can make them bigger for new screens, which is pretty cool. So we're going to select everything. We would do this when, of course, we had all our items already. I'm just doing this for example. 200 times 200% the width, 200% the height. Now we right-click, generate sprite sheet. We want everything selected that we want exported. And auto size, definitely want PNG 32-bit because we want transparency. And I add border and shape padding so that everything's spaced out and makes things way easier later on. And we want to put this where? Back where it should be. And export. Now we go into Photoshop and try and find this file. There should be a massive, massive PNG with everything on it. Okay, so I've just censored the doll for you again, but here I am taking now things from the sprite sheet. I've zoomed in a bit, and you are taking things one by one, and see now it's good that we have a border, otherwise these things would be butted up right against each other. And then edit, copy, delete, and then we're going to make a new folder called underwear and paste in there. And we line it up on the doll, which is of course basically impossible with black bars, but you get the idea. So you could do that for every item, and you have every item on this PNG sprite sheet, which is awesome. And just copy, delete, new folder, paste. And you arrange them in their final position, and then you can do all the regular wonderful maker coding like underwear fixed, although you should probably also put underwear on the doll herself so she's not naked in the menu, and so on. And you know, girl will have her skin tones, so she will also be fixed. And you should do that for all your items. Of course, if you need this to be bigger, you can go canvas size, you know, give an extra 100 each direction here, and then add backgrounds, pull in your backgrounds too. You can resize this file however you want. And of course later, when you've pulled all the items off the sprite sheet, you want to put them in their final positions. You'll crop to something like this, and then that's a height of, I saw 1281, which is a bit big. But we want to keep a big file for reference, because you can always shrink it down into Maker later. And then as computers get better, screen sizes get bigger, memories get faster, you can then go back and use your bigger file and publish that. Yeah, it's just that simple. Thank you.